Namaskar. Welcome.
How are you, sir? Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Subroto. Beautiful. Very nice. Thank you, sir.
In fact, we're not sure that you would be comfortable but then we realize that
आप लोग क्या भी करते हैं हम लोगों के साथ इतनी मस्ती करते हैं आप लोग. Please.
It's like an oasis. I think we could talk about is the greenery.
Yeah,
So,
Yeah.
I was told that I'm really looking forward to both of us. Just love birds.
Madam, you should not miss Tola. Tola takes around 30 kilometers. 30 kilometers.
So, service planning for Lal Sarovar.
Last time, but I don't think
But no,
morning I'm not here.
Yeah, one need to go early morning.
Just take that
6 o'clock.
4:30.
You should be there.
So this
It's been a very hectic day.
link you are saying,
Yeah. Told.
that's only 30 kilometers.
Yes, sir. 30 to
That
40.
we can do at 6 o'clock. Yeah.
I can.
Because Indranil was saying,
Right, I don't know. There are a lot of people used to go there. I never had been to the lake.
You will not be
he's selling something which
but
he doesn't use.
you get
It's what everybody normally people in the morning go, those who are here.
Black
morning,
bar.
those who does it.
then you get green goria. We see sparrow, but here you will find a green sparrow.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. And so there are about 50-60 varieties of birds that you can see.
I see.
But as
So how do you see? Do you go by a boat or do you walk around or how do you actually?
no, I'm talking about the campus.
Yeah.
Here you can see.
Yeah.
Here you can see 50.
There you can migrate birds actually. There you can see migrate
50 different types of
And
varieties of
they
birds.
have a boating service also. It's also there. You can go for a boating service.
Good afternoon everyone. Welcome to the 16th Institute Lecture Series for the current academic year. We are pleased to have with us Mr. Subroto Bagchi, Chairman, Mindtree, as our guest speaker. We also have with us Mrs. Bagchi. We also have with us Professor Harismita Trivedi, Faculty, Institute of Management, Nirma University. Mr. Subroto Bagchi is best known for co-founding Mindtree in 1999, where he started as the Chief Operating Officer and member of the board. During 9/11 economic slowdown, he articulated a new positioning for Mindtree as the best mid-sized company from India, which later became a reality. During the period 1999 to 2007, which can be called the first phase of the company, he was largely instrumental in articulating its mission, vision and values. Sir led the leadership development initiatives, marketing and knowledge management that differentiated Mindtree right from the startup stage. In 2008, Sir took on the role of gardener at Mindtree. In this new role, he focused full-time on the top 100 leaders at Mindtree to expand leadership capacity beyond the founding team. In April 2012, Sir took over as chairman of Mindtree's board. Mr. Bagchi has studied political science at Utkal University. Sir is a very well-known writer. His books have been translated into many languages including Chinese, Hindi, Marathi, Malayalam, Kannada, Korean, Telugu and Vietnamese, making him India's #1 business author. We welcome you, sir. May I now request Professor Trivedi to kindly present our guest with the bouquet. I would now request Akriti to present Mrs. Bagchi with the bouquet. May I now request Mr. Subroto Bagchi to kindly address the audience.
It's such a pleasure to be here with all of you, and I'm going to talk to you about one of the subjects that has deeply fascinated me for a long time, which is the idea of innovation. I think even as we talk about Make in India, it's very important that we understand that true greatness will depend on our ability to make for the world. So make in India, but we have to make for the world. And this would require us to understand what is the idea of innovation. In the conversation that I would like to have with you, present 10 broad ideas which will introduce the concept to you. And at the end, we can have some questions and answers from your side. First and foremost, we need to understand that innovation stems from creativity. There's a direct correlation between creativity and innovation. We cannot innovate unless we experience a creative state of mind. The question is, where does creativity come from? What is the source of creativity? The source of all creativity is actually the innocent state. And the most innocent state is the child state. So creative people are in touch with the child in them. Now, if you look at the next picture here, you will realize that it is not just something that comes from innocence. It thrives in spontaneity. The innovative mind is a spontaneous mind. When we go for education, we finish our education and we go to a place of work. We work, we engage with customers, we engage with fellow workers. We actually lose spontaneity and we are made to feel uncomfortable about being spontaneous. You're told to be straitjacketed, you're told to conform more than to be spontaneous. Now, I'll show you another picture of a child. So, the blurb here says that every child is a genius, why every adult is not a genius. So I showed you one child, which is the symbol of innocence, and I showed you another child, which is glorifying the idea of spontaneity. And here you see this kid who is not only spontaneous, this kid is actually having a ball of a time. He's having a good time, more than anything else, right? Do you think he's doing anything that will change the world? Unlikely. Because he really doesn't know what he's doing. He's picked up some lab stuff, probably from dad's or mom's lab, and wearing the sister's lab coat, okay? And he might have, concocted some of those chemical-looking substances, but inherently, he's really having a great time. Now, one of the longitudinal studies that the world has taken for the longest period of time is a study of genius in Stanford University since 1910. From 1910, the study has been going on with a control group of children, who were children in 1910, of course, who had above average intelligence. So, not above average, they're genius level intelligence, actually, not just above average, but genius level intelligence. And then this longitudinal study has been mapping them, and the study is continuing even as we are speaking today. So in frequencies, the researchers go back and see what happened to these people. It is amazing that at that age, even as this group, which are called termites, they're called termites because the scientist was a scientist called Terman, Professor Terman, who modified the original Binet test. Binet was the man who came out with IQ test. He's a self-taught French psychologist. So Terman modified that test and gave that test to these kids who were called termites. And the termites are now in their 80s. So all these kids who had genius level intelligence when they were 5 years old, what happens as they grow up in life? Many of them simply fall off. And you can argue that they went to school and then they went to college, then they came to do their MBA. Okay. So that's how their intelligence fell off. But more than that, actually the reason their creativity and their intelligence, capacity to innovate took a back seat is because as we grow up, particularly as we get educated, we do what is called reductive thinking. Now, what is reductive thinking? You walk into this auditorium and then immediately you grasp the auditorium as a shape. This auditorium has a certain shape. This auditorium is state of the art and it is built with certain kinds of wood paneling. It has got a certain kind of aesthetics. It's got a certain kind of lighting system, acoustics, and it's got a sitting capacity. You walk in and you begin to reduce it to data. So you say this space is longitudinal, this space is oval, this space is like this, like that. So this is called reductive thinking. Most of us, most of the time, are doing reductive thinking. But work of innovation is not a child of reductive thinking. Work of any great innovation, work of any great creativity happens because of wonder. You have heard about the term wonder, the English word W-O-N-D-E-R, wonder. Yeah? So there are some things that make you wonder. When you stood in front of Taj Mahal, you wondered. You walk into the Nirma University, the moment you step in from the highway, you wonder. It creates a sense of wonder. Now imagine that I got into this auditorium. What comes first to my mind? Do I look at its specifications or do I say, oh my God, this should be a place where we should probably have a classical recital? Give me this place and maybe we should do a management role play here. Here is an auditorium of this capacity. I'm sure this auditorium doesn't get used 24/7. So it may be a good idea to probably take a semester and use theater as a form of management education. Why don't we, in Nirma University, have a breakthrough in terms of management teaching and take what? No, I'm not saying that. But look, but thank you for that. This is the power of wonder. Suddenly, when you wonder, you can create wondrous things. And for all you know, you can actually do it. So why can't you do that? In Yale Medical School, Yale is one of the world's most respected medical schools, they take first-year doctors to go and do a course in art appreciation. The reason they do it is because a patient's face is a work of art. Now, if you look at Michelangelo's painting or Da Vinci's work, you can look at the entire thing as one. On the other hand, you can pay attention to individual qualities, like a brush stroke. The same patient is presented to a doctor. One doctor will just